I was standing in the foyer of my son's house in Myers Park, a house I'd never forget. $2.3 million. Italian marble floors, 12-foot ceilings, and my son, pointing at the door, telling me to leave, in front of 8 of his lawyer friends who were laughing like I was some kind of joke. My name is Vernon Samuel Carter. I'm 64 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Been here my whole life. Grew up in the West End when it wasn't the trendy place it is now. Worked 3 jobs to put myself through Johnson C. Smith University. Spent 40 years building a commercial real estate investment company, Carter Holdings, LLC. Nothing flashy, just quiet, steady money. The kind of wealth people don't see coming. That Friday night in October 18th, 2024. That's when everything changed. My son Marcus Jr. had invited me to dinner. Said he wanted me to meet some colleagues. I drove over to his place on Queens Road around 7. Brought a bottle of wine, a Napa Valley Cabernet, $180 bottle. I remember because I'd saved it for a special occasion. Marcus opened the door wearing a Tom Ford suit. No tie. That casual rich look. "Dad," he said, not excited, just acknowledging me, like I was the help. I should have known then. Inside, his living room was full of people. Young lawyers, mid-30s, all from his firm. Johnston and Carver, big corporate law. They were drinking cocktails, laughing loud. The kind of laughter that comes from thinking you've made it. I walked in. Extended my hand to the first guy I saw. "Vernon Carter," I said. Marcus's father. The guy looked at my hand like I was offering him a disease. "Oh," he said, then turned back to his conversation. Marcus didn't introduce me to anyone else, just pointed toward the kitchen. "Food's in there if you want some." I stood there for a moment, watching my son, the boy I'd raised, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for, treating me like I was invisible. I'd given him everything. Private school at Charlotte Latin, full ride to Duke, law school at UVA. I paid every cent, $400,000 in education costs. I have the bank statements, every tuition check, every housing deposit, every bar exam fee. But that night, he acted like he'd done it all himself. I walked to the kitchen, made myself a plate, stood by the window eating alone while his friends talked about vacation homes in Hilton Head and new Porsches. Then one of them, a woman with short blonde hair, noticed me. "Who's that?" she asked Marcus. Loud enough for me to hear. Marcus glanced over. "That's my dad." "Oh," she said. "Is he okay standing there by himself?" Marcus shrugged. "He's fine." That's when something broke inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Just realization. My son was embarrassed of me. I walked back into the living room. Tried to join a conversation about a case they were working on. Some corporate merger. I'd done dozens of commercial deals. I understood the language. But when I offered an opinion, Marcus cut me off. "Dad," he said, sharp, like I was a child interrupting adults. "These guys don't need your input. This is sophisticated legal work." The room went quiet. 8 people staring at me. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked amused. I felt my face get hot. "I know what you were doing," Marcus said, walking toward me now. "But this isn't your world. These are corporate attorneys, not small-time landlords. Small-time landlords." That's what he called me. Me, the man who owned 47 commercial properties across 3 states. The man who'd built a $28 million portfolio. The man who'd given him everything. I set my plate down. "Marcus, can we talk? Privately?" "No," he said, flat. "I'm hosting. And honestly, Dad, I think it's time for you to go." I stared at him. "What? You're making my guests uncomfortable. You don't fit in here." I invited you because I thought you could handle being around successful people. But clearly, I was wrong. One of his friends laughed. A short bark of amusement. That's what pushed me over. I'm your father, I said. Quiet, but firm. And I'm grateful for that, Marcus said. But his tone said he wasn't. But I'd outgrown needing you. I'd built my own success, my own life. And honestly, Dad, you just don't belong in it anymore. He walked to the door, opened it. I'll call you next week, maybe. I looked around the room. 8 faces. Some looked away. Some smiled. None of them defended me. I walked to that door, stopped next to my son, looked him in the eye. You're making a mistake, I said. The only mistake I made was inviting you, Marcus said. Then closed the door, in my face. While his friends laughed inside, I stood on that porch for 30 seconds. Maybe a minute. Just breathing. Then I walked to my car. A 2019 Lincoln Continental, paid in cash. $47,000. I sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, and I cried. For the first time in 20 years. I cried. Not because of the humiliation, though that hurt, but because I'd raised a son who thought cruelty was strength, who thought disrespect was sophistication, who'd forgotten where he came from. I drove home that night. My house in Eastover, modest by Marcus's standards, 3,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms. Paid off in 2008. I sat in my study until 3 in the morning, thinking, remembering. I remembered the night Marcus was born, February 3rd, 1986, Presbyterian Hospital. I was 26 years old, working as a property manager making $32,000 a year. I held that boy, looked at his face, and promised him I'd give him a better life than I had. I kept that promise. I worked 80-hour weeks, skipped vacations, drove the same car for 15 years, all so he could have opportunities I never did. And this is what I got. Kicked out of his house like trash. But here's what Marcus didn't know, what he'd never bothered to ask about, what his arrogance had blinded him to. Carter Holdings, LLC, my company, wasn't just a property management firm. It was an investment company. We bought distressed commercial mortgages, residential mortgage too, second and third position liens, high risk, high reward. We'd been doing it since 2010, and in 2021, when Marcus bought that house on Queens Road, that $2.3 million mansion, he got his primary mortgage through Wells Fargo, $1.8 million at 3.2% interest. But he needed a second mortgage for the down payment, $500,000, because he'd spent all his savings on that Porsche 911 and a boat he never used. That second mortgage, he got it through Piedmont Lending Group, a private lender, 7.5% interest. Balloon payment due in 5 years. Standard terms for someone with his income. $340,000 a year. He could afford it. But here's what Marcus never knew. Never thought to check. Piedmont Lending Group sold that mortgage 6 months after closing. They bundled it with 40 other loans and sold the whole package to an investment fund. Standard practice. Happens every day. That investment fund was managed by my company, Carter Holdings, LLC. I'd bought my son's mortgage without knowing it. It came in a bundle, one loan among 41. I didn't even look at the property addresses. My partner Reggie handled that acquisition. $18 million for the whole package. I found out 3 months later, December 2021. Reggie was reviewing the portfolio and saw the address, 4782 Queens Road. Hey, he said, isn't this your son's place? I looked at the file, saw Marcus's name, his signature, his social security number. I owned a $500,000 lien on my son's house, second position, meaning if he ever defaulted, I could foreclose. After Wells Fargo took their share, I'd get whatever was left. I never told him. Why would I? He was paying on time. It was just business. And honestly, I thought it was kind of beautiful. A safety net he didn't know he had. If he ever got in trouble, I'd be there. I could restructure. Forgive the debt. Help him. That's what fathers do. But that night, October 18th, sitting in my study, looking at that mortgage file, I realized something. My son didn't want a safety net. He wanted to fly without one, to prove he didn't need me. So maybe I should let him. The next morning, Saturday, I woke up at 6, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I pulled up Marcus's mortgage file, read every page, every clause, every term. 47 pages of legal language. I've been in real estate for 40 years. I know how to read a contract. And that's when I found it. Page 31, Section 12.4, Technical Default Clause. The mortgage required Marcus to maintain property insurance with Carter Holdings listed as loss payee, and to provide proof of that insurance annually. By the anniversary date of the loan closing, August 15th, I checked our records. No insurance certificate on file for August 15th, 2024. That was 2 months ago. I called our office manager, Patricia. She'd been with me for 18 years. Patricia, do we have current insurance docs for the Queens Road property? She checked. No, sir. We sent 3 requests. August 20th, September 10th, October 1st. No response. Did you follow up? I called twice. Left messages. Never heard back. Technical default. Marcus had violated the terms of his mortgage, not by missing a payment, but by failing to provide required documentation. Under Section 18.2, that gave us the right to accelerate the loan, call the entire balance due immediately, and if he couldn't pay, foreclose $500,000, plus accrued interest, plus late fees. Total amount due, $537,420. I sat there, looking at those numbers, and I thought about that moment. My son, pointing at the door, telling me I didn't belong in his world. I picked up my phone, called my attorney, Daniel Washington. We'd worked together for 30 years. He'd handled every major deal I'd ever done. Daniel, I need you to draft a notice of default and an acceleration letter. For which property? I gave him the address. Heard him typing, then silence. Vernon, this is your son's house. I know. You're going to foreclose on your son? I'm going to enforce a contract he signed, a contract he's violated. That's all. Daniel was quiet for a moment. You sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right. I'll have the papers ready Monday morning. You'll need to send written notice. He'll have 30 days to cure the default, either by providing the insurance docs and paying the late fees, or by paying off the loan entirely. And if he doesn't, then we file for foreclosure, given the equity in the property. We'd likely force a sale. Wells Fargo gets paid first. We get paid second. He keeps whatever's left. If there is anything left, after legal fees and costs. I thanked Daniel, hung up, and sat there, thinking, was I really going to do this? Destroy my son financially? Take his house? The house he was so proud of. The house he'd used as a weapon against me. Yes, I was, because Marcus needed to learn something I'd failed to teach him. Something my father taught me when I was young. Respect isn't about fear. It's about recognition. Recognizing that the people who built you, who sacrificed for you, who gave you everything, deserve to be honored, not discarded. And if Marcus couldn't learn that lesson through love, then maybe he'd learn it through loss. Monday morning, October 21st, I drove to Daniel's office in Uptown, South Trust Tower, 23rd floor. He had the documents ready. Notice of default, acceleration of debt, demand for payment. I read every word. Signed my name, Vernon Samuel Carter, sole managing member. Carter Holdings, LLC. When are you sending these? Daniel asked. Today. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. Vernon. Once you do this, there's no going back. Even if you change your mind, he'll know. He'll know you did this to him. Good, I said. He should know. He should know that actions have consequences. That you can't treat people like dirt. Especially not the people who love you. I left Daniel's office. Drove to the post office on East Boulevard. Addressed the envelope myself. Marcus Jonathan Carter, Jr., 4782 Queens Road, Charlotte, NC 28207. Dropped it in the slot. Watched it disappear. And then I went home. And I waited. 3 days later, Thursday, October 24th, I got the notification. Delivery confirmed. Signed for by Marcus J. Carter. 2:47 p.m. I imagined him opening that envelope, reading the first page, his face going pale, reading the second page, the third, seeing the numbers. $537,420, due in full, within 30 days. Then seeing the signature, Vernon Samuel Carter, realizing his father owned his debt, had owned it for 3 years, and was now calling it due. My phone rang at 3:15 p.m. Marcus. I didn't answer. It rang again at 3:47 p.m., again at 4:20 p.m., at 6:30 p.m., at 8:15 p.m., 11 calls that first day. I didn't answer any of them. He showed up at my house Friday morning. I watched him through my front window, pounding on the door. Dad, open the door. We need to talk. I sat in my chair, sipping coffee, listening to him yell, just like he'd made me stand alone in his kitchen, watching him ignore me. After 20 minutes, he left, tires screeching as he pulled away. He sent me texts, dozens of them. This is insane. You can't do this. I'm your son. We can work this out. I responded to one, only one. You have 27 days to cure the default. The terms are in the letter. Good luck. He called again. I answered this time. Put him on speaker. Dad, please, we can talk about this. We tried talking last Friday. You told me I didn't belong in your world. Remember? I was having a bad day. I didn't mean, you meant every word. I saw it in your eyes. You were proud of yourself. Proud of humiliating me. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. You treated me like I was nothing. Like everything I did for you, everything I sacrificed, meant nothing. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you want? Money? I can pay you. Just tell me what you want. I want you to understand something. Respect isn't optional. It's not something you give when it's convenient. It's fundamental, and you forgot that. So now, you're going to remember. I hung up. The next 3 weeks were quiet. Marcus stopped calling after that conversation. I knew what he was doing. Scrambling, calling banks, trying to refinance, trying to find $537,420 in cash. But I also knew his financial situation. I'd seen it in the mortgage file. He'd maxed out his credit buying that lifestyle. The car, the boat, the furniture, the watches. He was leveraged to the ceiling. He made $340,000 a year. But after taxes, after his mortgage payments to Wells Fargo, after his car payment, his boat payment, his country club dues, his child support to his ex-wife, he had maybe $3,000 a month left over. He'd spent everything trying to look successful. And now, He was about to learn the difference between looking successful and being stable. November 20th, 30 days after the notice. No payment, no insurance certificate, no communication. I called Daniel. File a foreclosure. You sure? I'm sure. 2 days later, Marcus received the foreclosure notice. Court date set for January 15th, 2025, unless he paid the full amount, plus legal fees, which now totaled $548,960. The house would be sold at auction. That's when he broke. He showed up at my house. Not angry this time, crying. Actually crying. I opened the door. He stood there. My son, 38 years old, tears running down his face. Dad, please, don't do this. That house, it's everything I have. It's my entire life. I looked at him. This man I'd raised. This man who'd forgotten his humanity. No, I said, it's not your life. It's your ego. And your ego is about to get a very expensive education. January 15th, 2025, Mecklenburg County Courthouse. Room 5120. I sat in the back row wearing a navy suit. Marcus sat up front with his attorney, some young guy from a small firm, not Johnston and Carver. I'd heard through Reggie that Marcus's firm had placed him on probation. Apparently representing yourself in a foreclosure proceeding while employed at a major corporate firm raises questions about your judgment. The hearing lasted 17 minutes. Judge Patricia Odom reviewed the file, looked at Marcus's attorney. Has your client cured the default? Your Honor, we're requesting a continuance to, has your client provided proof of insurance as required by the mortgage agreement? Silence. Has your client paid the accelerated loan balance of $548,960? No, Your Honor, but we believe. Then the foreclosure proceeds. Auction scheduled for February 10th, 10 a.m. Courthouse steps. Minimum bid set at the outstanding loan amount. Next case. The gavel came down. Marcus turned around, looked directly at me. His face, I'll never forget it. Not angry, not defiant, just broken, completely broken. I stood up, walked past him, didn't say a word, went home. The auction was brutal. I didn't attend. Reggie went as my representative. Later, he told me what happened. 0.47 bidders. Real estate investors smelling blood in the water. The bidding started at $548,960, shot up to $1.9 million within 5 minutes. Final sale price, $2,040,000. Wells Fargo got their $1.76 million. We got our $548,960. Legal fees took another $43,000. Marcus walked away with $41,040 from a Conver $60. Legal fees took another $43,000. Marcus walked away with $41,040 from a cogent $48,960. House he'd bought for $2.3 million 4 years earlier, after he'd put $500,000 down, plus another $180,000 in renovations. He'd lost $638,960, plus his dream home, plus his reputation. But that was just the beginning. The lesson had only started. 2 weeks after the auction, Marcus called me. First time in months. Dad, I need help. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. They fired me. Johnston and Carver. Said the foreclosure showed poor financial management. That I was a liability. I don't have a job anymore. And I can't find another one. Every firm I apply to, they see the foreclosure. They see the judgment. Nobody wants to hire me. I listened to that message 3 times. Then deleted it. March 2025. I heard from his ex-wife, Janelle. She called me directly. Mr. Carter, I don't know if you know, but Marcus hasn't paid child support in 2 months. I had to file a motion. The court's threatening him with contempt. He could go to jail. Where's he living? I asked. Some apartment in University. 1 bedroom. His daughter doesn't even want to visit. She says it smells and there's no furniture. I thanked Janelle, hung up, and I sat with that information. My son, sleeping on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment, facing jail time, unemployed, destroyed. Part of me wanted to fix it, to write a check, to make the calls, to save him like I'd always saved him. But I knew this was the lesson. This was what he needed to understand, that the safety net he'd mocked, the father he'd discarded, was the only thing that had ever protected him from his own arrogance. April 2025. He showed up at my house. I knew he would eventually. I opened the door. He looked terrible. Lost maybe 30 pounds. Beard grown out. Clothes wrinkled. "Dad," he said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't move." "For what?" "For everything. For how I treated you. For what I said. For being so blind, so stupid. Why are you sorry now?" I asked. "Because you lost everything? Or because you finally understand what you did?" He started crying, right there on my porch. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. I thought I was successful. I thought I'd made it. But I was just playing a role, pretending. And I hurt you. I hurt the one person who ever actually loved me. And I don't know how to fix it. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. And I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. Real, genuine humility. "You can't fix it," I said. "Not today. Not this month. Maybe not this year. But you can start. You can start by rebuilding. Not your career. Not your image. Yourself. The person you actually are. Not the person you were pretending to be." "How?" he asked. "How do I do that?" "You work. Not at some corporate firm. Not chasing money and status. You work. Real work. The kind of work that teaches you what real success looks like." I let that sit for a moment. Then I said, "I'm renovating a property in Statesville, old warehouse. Converting it to mixed use, office and retail. I need laborers. They work. $18 an hour. You want the job?" He looked at me, confused. $18 an hour? "Dad, I was making $340,000 a year, and now you're making 0. So, you want the job or not?" He nodded. "Yes, I want the job." "Be there Monday, 6 a.m. Wear boots. Bring gloves. Don't be late." That was 3 months ago. April to now. July 2025. Marcus has been working construction for me ever since. 6 days a week, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. He's tarring roofs, pouring concrete, hauling debris, working alongside guys who make $20 an hour and have been doing this for 20 years. Guys who don't care that he went to Duke, don't care that he used to be a lawyer, don't care about anything except whether he pulls his weight. He's living in that 1-bedroom apartment in University, driving a 2008 Toyota Corolla he bought for $3,400 cash, eating ramen and frozen dinners, paying child support from his paycheck, $720 every 2 weeks, which leaves him about $900 for everything else, rent, food, gas. That's his life now. And he's learning, finally learning what sacrifice looks like, what hard work feels like, what it means to build something from the ground up instead of coasting on someone else's foundation. Last Tuesday, he was tarring a roof in 94-degree heat. I drove by to check on the project, saw him up there, shirt soaked through, face red. I called up to him, "Marcus, take a break." He looked down. "I'm good. Want to finish this section." I climbed up, stood next to him. We worked together for 20 minutes. Not talking, just working. Then he stopped, looked at me. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me, for teaching me, even when I didn't deserve it. I set down my tar brush. You're my son. I never gave up on you. I just stopped protecting you from your own choices. There's a difference. He nodded, went back to work, and I watched him. This man who'd once kicked me out of his house, now working beside me, in the heat, in the tar, learning, growing, becoming someone real. 3 weeks ago, I got a call from my accountant. Vernon, the warehouse project, were $140,000 over budget. Permitting issues, material costs, labor overruns. We need to make a decision. Push through or cut losses and sell. I thought about it. That property could be worth $3.2 million when finished. Or it could bankrupt my company if the costs kept escalating. It was a gamble, the kind I'd made 100 times in my career. I called Marcus that night. I need your opinion on something. He sounded surprised. My opinion? You've been working that warehouse for 3 months. You know the structure, the problems, the potential. If you were making the call, would you finish it or sell? Silence. Then, the foundation is solid. The bones are good. But we're using the wrong contractor for the HVAC. They're overcharging and behind schedule. If we switch to a different team, local guys I've met, we could cut $60,000 and finish a month early. But that's a risk. They're smaller, less established. What would you do? I'd take the risk. The building is worth it. And sometimes, you have to trust the people who are actually doing the work, not just the ones with the fancy resumes. I smiled. That's exactly what I was thinking. We switched contractors. Marcus's recommendation, and he was right. We finished the warehouse last week, under revised budget. 2 weeks early. Sold it for $3.1 million. My profit, $840,000. I called Marcus, told him to come to my house. Saturday morning. He showed up at 9. Clean clothes, shaved, looking more like himself, but different, humbler, wiser. I handed him an envelope. Open it? He did. Inside was a check, $42,000, and a letter, handwritten. The letter said, Marcus, you've worked 520 hours over the last 3 months, at $18 an hour. That's $9,360. You've been paid $8,640 after taxes. But your recommendations on the warehouse saved me $60,000 and helped me close the deal. This check represents your real value, not the value you thought you had when you had a title and a fancy house, but the value you have when you work, when you think, when you contribute. This is a bonus, not a gift. You earn this. Rebuild your life, pay off your debts, start over, but do it right this time, with humility, with respect, with gratitude for the people who helped you get there. Your father, Vernon. Marcus read that letter, and he cried. For the second time in a year. But this time, they weren't tears of loss. They were tears of understanding. Dad, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just keep working. Keep learning. Keep being the man I always believed you could be. Not the man you pretended to be in that house on Queens Road, but the man you're becoming now. He hugged me. First time in 5 years. And I hugged him back. My son. Broken. Rebuilt. Different. Will our relationship ever be what it was before? Probably not. There's a scar there now. A permanent reminder of what happened. But maybe that's okay. Maybe scars are how we remember where we failed, so we don't fail the same way twice. Marcus is applying to smaller law firms now, places that need good lawyers, not celebrity lawyers, places that value work ethic over pedigree. He got an interview next week at a civil rights firm in Greensboro, $85,000 a year, a fraction of what he used to make. But he's excited, actually excited. Sin, it's the kind of law he should have been doing all along, helping people, not just helping corporations get richer. His daughter visited him last weekend. First time in 6 months. They went to the park. Got ice cream. He called me after. Said she told him, "Daddy, you seem happier now." Out of the mouths of children. Truth we're too proud to see. This morning, I drove past that house on Queens Road. The new owners are renovating, adding a pool, a guest house. Living their dream, just like Marcus thought he was. But dreams built on ego don't last. Dreams built on respect, on sacrifice, on real work, those are the ones that survive. I didn't destroy my son. I didn't take his house to hurt him. I took it to save him, to show him that the things he thought mattered, the mansion, the car, the status, were just illusions. And illusions crumble, always. What matters is character, respect, the willingness to work, the humility to learn, the courage to start over when you've lost everything. Marcus lost his house, his job, his reputation. But he gained something more valuable. He gained himself, the real version, not the performance. And me? I gained my son back. Not the arrogant attorney who kicked me out, but the humble man who's learning, day by day, hour by hour. That success isn't about what you own. It's about who you are and who you're becoming. That's the lesson. That's the karma. Not punishment, but consequence. Not revenge, but restoration. And sometimes, the hardest thing a father can do is let his son fall, so he can learn how to stand on his own, the right way. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had to make a hard choice to teach someone you love a difficult lesson? I'll see you in the next one.